Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be answering some very popular questions I had about my Inktober story. I'm also going to be answering a few questions that I liked in particular. Then I'm going to talk about this art piece that I'm working on, and finally I will be playing some bloopers that not only I made during recording my Inktober, but some of the voice actors had. So here we go. Why do you call Elle they? Or what's Elle's gender? When I started to write the story, I didn't want my main character to be female because I draw so many girls. But to be honest, I also didn't want to make a male character because every other story has a male character as the main character, so I figured it would be cool to have a character that was neither gender because, honestly, what does it matter? Unless you're making a point in the story to specifically show that women have power or that this man did this thing, what does the gender matter? It's just about a kid having an adventure. That's it. Also, I did feel like it would make the character more relatable if it had no gender, because it's easier for you to put yourself in the story. And I think stories that have a more relatable character are easier for a lot of people to enjoy. It is canon that Elle is non-binary, but I am leaving it up to the audience member to decide what they are on their own. I will admit that I did struggle a lot when calling Elle they. And yes, I know I did call Elle she and he multiple times throughout the story. I was throwing this story together day by day very quickly, so I'm not surprised that I messed up a lot. Calling someone they is not something that I have ever done in my life, and having to adjust to that was awkward, and honestly it did make the story pretty confusing. I don't know what the solution to that is, but I did my best, I think. Okay, I talked way too much about that one. Next question. Will you make this into a book? I would love to, but the copy does need a lot of editing because, like I said, I threw the story together day by day and it's not the best writing. It's the first time I've ever written a story, so it needs a little work before I actually put this into a book form. But I'm also afraid that by the time I get to doing that, this whole thing will blow over and not that many people will be interested, so I'm not sure. I'll think about it, but I'm not sure. Sorry. Why was Elle's family not worried? Or how long were they gone for? Or were they dead? Or were they dreaming? Or how much time passed? If you don't want any major spoilers about what really happened in the story, skip this part. I guess I'll go ahead and reveal what really happened in the story because why not? I think if this story were in book form, it would have been a lot easier to catch what really happened. But because the first few chapters of this story happened 3 weeks ago, and I think most people forgot what I had said, it wasn't as easy to catch. A few people actually called out what was going to happen within the first couple of chapters. And a couple of people did mention it on the last chapter, but I don't think as many people caught on to it as I thought they would. In the first few chapters, I talked a lot about how Elle was a coward and how easily they were scared by Sam's stories, to the point where they even thought that their stories were reality. Do you see where I'm going with this already? This whole story was one of Sam's stories, and Elle thought it was reality, so the whole thing didn't happen. Normally, I don't like the whole, oh, it was a dream, or, it didn't happen scenario, but I think because I was trying to build up that it was a storytelling situation, and that it was planned from the beginning, I think it's okay. I said that Sam liked to tell stories, and that Elle really couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't, and was easily scared, so I gave a lot of hints, alright guys? Ooh, that would be a very good excuse for why I kept forgetting to put Elle's bandages at the end when they came back to reality, because they never got hurt. Though at the same time I was going to say that they got hurt while playing pretend, but either way it works. Here are a few of the hints that I tried to drop at the beginning of the story that would kind of come back later on. The first one was the ant baking, which is why I came up with the whole ant witch thing. They are an aunt in reality, but in pretend they are the ant witch, like a bug. So that was something that was kind of a stretch, but I thought it was a really cute connection. Also the fact that I started the story about their aunt's pies at the beginning, and then this ant witch was a baking witch. And when Elle came back home, they smelt the pies, so I was hoping that would help people make the connection about the whole baking thing. I don't know. Too much of a stretch? Another thing was the dogs versus cats. So because Elle's cat does not like Sam, Sam made an enemy cat in the story. And while they were pretending, they probably were playing around with their cat at some point. Another hint was at the beginning, Sam had a fake sword that she was playing with, and who also had a sword? Anthea. So technically, I think Anthea was supposed to be Sam leading Elle through the story or the imagination station pretend. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the word pretending. I think those were the main connections that I made. I'm sure if I had more time to think about the story throughout that, I would have made the Ant Queen someone. I could have made Antonio somebody. Maybe the Giant. The Giant could possibly be their dad, but at the same time, their mom isn't dead, so why would the Giant's wife be dead? I don't know. Am I done with this question? What was the question? Let's see. So, Elle's family wasn't worried because they weren't actually gone. They were playing pretend. Though I will say, when Elle fell into the river, they didn't get swept away. They probably just got rescued by Sam and they continued to play. That was it. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What was your inspiration for the story and characters? To be honest, I can't even remember that far back because October is a blur. I think my main inspiration, to be honest, was the Inktober prompts. I just looked at what the prompts were and how they could flow together, and I kind of built the story along with that. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to have a main character that was kind of a wuss from the beginning, but other than that, I wasn't entirely sure where the story was going to go. Not only that, but I had a one-sentence outline for each prompt, and then I realized that I had to write over a page for each one to be at least 4 minutes long. So a lot of reworking went through the chapters, and a lot changed. Next question. Why doesn't Elle speak? This goes along with the why I didn't want to give them a gender. I didn't want to give them a voice because I wanted the person reading it to feel more like they could relate to the character. Also, I didn't want to give the main character too much personality because I'm a bad writer. Elle is such a shy character that I wouldn't be surprised if they went the whole time without talking much at all. How old are the characters? Elle is probably around 6, Sam could be 8 or 9. Anthea and Antonio are bugs, so I'm not really sure how to judge that. If I had to say, Anthea would probably be an older teenager, maybe she could be 16 or 17. And Antonio is probably 14 or something. I just made those up on the spot. Will there be a sequel? I can almost definitely say there will not be a sequel. Did you write the story before Inktober or during? I wrote it during Inktober. I wrote every chapter the day before, sometimes the day of, and that was very stressful. If I were going to do this again, I would definitely write the whole story before Inktober starts. Which illustrations were your favorite? I talked about this in the Inktober wrap-up video, but let's see if I can name them. Prompt Fierce, Prompt Deep, Prompt Crooked, Prompt Blind, and Prompt Ship. Those were my favorites. Fierce was definitely my favorite one out of all of them. Did you write this just to draw ants? I swear that ants were not even in my mind when I started writing this. In fact, as I went along with the prompts and I was kind of writing a one-sentence scenario to happen, I didn't think about making an ant witch until I think Fat came around, and I thought it would be really funny to connect their ant with an ant witch. And then, honestly, I didn't even have Anthea in the story until I wrote her in that chapter, so... No, I didn't write this just for ants, though I am very thankful because it was pretty cute. It's an ant story. And the hardest question, what's the story's title? I do think about calling it Beyond the Hills, but at the same time, it kind of sounds too familiar to Over the Garden Wall. But I'll be honest, I have no idea what to call this story. Anthea's mask might be kind of cute because in the end, Anthea isn't real and Sam is wearing a mask and calls herself Anthea. But I don't know. So those were the questions that were asked the most, and now I'm going to do sort of a lightning round where I quickly answer some questions that I thought were interesting, but they weren't asked a lot. So here we go. Will Elle and Anthea stay consistent OCs of yours? I don't know if I'll draw them in stories in the future, but I'll definitely doodle them here and there, I'm sure. I love them now. What was the cloud monster? I don't know, it was just a giant eyeball. You're not supposed to know. What happened to the giant bird? I like to pretend that it got out safely, but to be honest, it probably died. How did you decide on the ending? Oh, I guess I already answered this one, sort of. I knew I wanted this to be a kids playing pretend sort of thing, so having Elle just come home and it being a happy ending was, I guess, sort of easy. What is Elle's favorite baked good? Did you listen to the story? It's pie. Elle loves pie. I'm just joking. It's pie though. How long has Anthea been a familiar? Although Anthea's backstory is pretty mysterious, I will say I do believe that she is an outsider to the colony, and that's why they don't really like her. So maybe Ant Witch rescued her when she was a child or a grub, and she's been her familiar her whole life. Maybe. And what gave you the idea of talking ants in their beautiful Antonese? The only reason why the ants talk in a different language is because I didn't feel like doing more voices, and I didn't feel like asking more people to do voices. That is how I got that idea. I'm glad though, I think it was really interesting to have the ants have their own language that Elle couldn't understand. The ants weren't very kind to Elle, and I think not being able to understand what they were saying and just looking at their angry faces made the situation a lot more scarier than it could have been if he could understand what they were saying. And I called Elle a he, but whatever. How did you make sure they came out on time? Hard work and dedication and no life. What character was your favorite? That's a hard question. I really like Anthea and Sam, but I also really like Antonio because he's kind of goofy. Did you ever experience art block? Thankfully during Inktober I never experienced art block, and I am very thankful for that. So no, it was a very smooth operation despite not having a life during the whole month. And finally, how do you feel after only painting with black, gray, and white for a month? It feels good to go back to color, but I will admit I really did enjoy working in black and white. It was a lot of fun. Wowie! Okay, I talked a lot longer than I thought I was going to talk, so let's talk about this art really quick and then get on to the bloopers. So I wanted to create a piece with Elle and Sam in color, and I kind of wanted to do a few other characters as well, but in my sketches nothing was really turning out and I wanted to get this drawing done fast. But what I did come up with I am very happy with, and I have to say seeing these characters in color is kind of weird, but also they are so cute and I love them. So I wanted to design this illustration as sort of a book cover or like a poster or something that isn't just characters standing around. So I thought it would be really interesting to have Sam in the background, but the main focus being Elle. I used her hair to silhouette the forest in the background because the forest is the main focus of the story. Elle is stuck in this forest, traveling through it to find their way home for most of the story, so being in a spooky forest was a perfect background. And because this is a story made up by Sam, I thought having the woods in her hair as sort of a part of her would kind of represent the story being hers. I almost wrapped her hair around Elle, just going over them just a little bit, but it almost looked like that would be a bad thing, like Sam was an enemy or something. And I know the stories she creates puts Elle in bad situations that they don't like, but I didn't want it to look too crazy. Overall, I'm really happy with how this image turned out, and to be honest, I don't really have much to say about it. I do enjoy seeing these characters in color and I think it's pretty cute. One thing I will say, what is with my bad habit of drawing feet backwards? That's really weird. I keep thinking that it kind of looks like the foot is curved, but then I look at it after I draw it and nope, the foot just looks backwards. Oh well. Okay, this is a very long video. What do you say we get to those bloopers? Roll the clips.
Don't go too far, children. You know what happened. No, I had it. Don't go too far, children. You know what lies beyond the hills. Does that sound like yelling? Elle! Elle? Sounds like I'm swearing. What the hell?
What's this? Good enough for that.
Wait, hold on, give me a...
What's this?
You ass.
Ah.
With his back turd. With his back turd. But it also looked like it hadn't. Oh wait, there's sirens. Dang it. Anthea thanked her lucky stars that was what? What did I write? Never write a story while in voice chat, kids. Wait. He walked over to the cabinet wait, what? He walked over to the shelf. Oh my goodness. I should probably proofread these before I start recording. Yes, Laki, sharpen your claws. For the fate with the giant to do, because that's a sentence that makes sense. Winking at Elle, then scurrying back up his arm onto their shoulder. Oh no. Anthea dug through her bag looking for first art. First art supplies. Anthea dug through her bag looking for first art. I said first art supplies again. First aid supplies, you dingleberry.
Why don't you look delicious?
He really went for that one.
Oh, good! Good! No, it was too much on the first one. Oh, good! Good! I was just testing out a new recipe! Here, tell me what you think!
God, you got so high.
Another batch ruined!
Oh my god!
Now, to take care of this little problem. Here, a bite of this ought to do the trick. That was going all over.
Here, a bite of dice got to do the trick.
I hate you.
Oh my! Guess that wasn't right. Catch. What?
Oh no.
Oh, guess that wasn't right. Catch.
I work for the queen. Well, I work for the queen.
Alright guys, thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. I hope you enjoyed those bloopers, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, including Eve Milady, Michael Young, Hope Poops, Sarah James, Josh Perry Buck, Alice Tries, Nerdy Curls, Rochelle Renee, Hannah, and Acrylia. If you want a shout out at the end of my videos, access to my sketchbook, coloring pages, and more, become my patron by clicking the link in the description. Thank you all so much for the support. Bye!